Item 6.3, winter universal screening data. Dr. Cohen.
Thank you. We do screen our students in several areas, and remember, this is not testing to see how well they do. This is screening to see where there may be difficulties. And so the screening data you received last board meeting was on mathematics and reading. And we have also finished the behavior risk screening data. And so again, this is screening data. So this identifies perhaps a group of students that might require further testing or intervention. And so I will turn this over to Mrs. Morasso, who has been collecting this data for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Scientific research-based interventions, otherwise known as SRBI, is a framework for ensuring that all students achieve grade-level outcomes and are receiving a continuum of support to address their needs. The SRBI framework has 3 tiers. In Tier 1, all children receive high-quality core curriculum and instruction in the general education classroom. In Tier 2, the school provides additional help for students who need more support than they are receiving in the general education curriculum. And in Tier 3, the school provides even more individualized instruction for children who need the most support. One of the key elements of SRBI is the administration of universal screens. Universal screens is a term used for those assessments, I call them quick probes, that are given routinely to all students in a specific grade, the results of which are intended to flag those who may be at risk either academically or behaviorally. As Dr. Conway mentioned at our last board meeting, Justin Gussie and Chris Osman shared the results of universal screens in English language arts and mathematics. For those students who were flagged at medium or high risk, a review is conducted to determine the validity of those results. We call this process a triangulation of the data. We look at other data, classroom performance, CMT capped results, other standardized test results to validate the screen. And for those reviews that validate student risk, interventions are put in place to support areas of need. Those interventions are then progress monitored to see if the intervention is having the intended effect to improve performance. If not, then a different intervention is tried and the cycle repeats until monitoring demonstrates that the student is indeed making progress. The SRBI framework, pictured as a triangle on your agenda brief, provides a system to address both the academic and social, emotional, behavioral needs of students. Tonight I share with you the results of the universal screen that we administer to collect data regarding behavior. This year represents our first year's implementation of this screen. Last year we piloted it at Maple Street, VCMS, and Rockville High School in grade 9. The Student Risk Screening Scale, SRSS, is a research-based universal screening tool used to identify students with at-risk behavior patterns. 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring, we ask classroom teachers using a 4-point Likert scale to identify the frequency of observable at-risk student behaviors. It's a very efficient tool. It takes only about 10 to 15 minutes for a teacher to screen an entire class. On a scale of never, rarely, occasionally, or frequently, the tool asks teachers to indicate the frequency that a student might exhibit peer rejection, negative attitude, aggressive behavior, low academic achievement, etc. The goal here is to identify these behaviors early that may put a student at risk and then intervene with the appropriate supports to eliminate or prevent risk. Included in your packet are the results of our fall and winter universal screen for behavior. On average, almost 70% of students in K-12 are considered low risk. Approximately 20% of our students are considered at medium risk, and on average, 10% are considered high risk. So what do we do with this data? At the school level, building leadership teams examine this information. Once validated and triangulated with other data about students, interventions are put in place to support both individuals and groups of students. I will share with you that the district's implementation of positive behavior intervention supports is one of the interventions that targets all students. And at the district level, we look to the SRSS to assess the district need, to examine the impact of our initiatives, and to brainstorm additional interventions that may be needed to support our students. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first year's implementation of this behavioral screen, and there's much to be learned. The use of the tool at the high school level presented a bit of a challenge, as students have multiple teachers. Hence, the N size, for example, in grade 9 is 1,410. So we're working to see if there's a way to average the scores by student for the spring administration of the universal screen. We'll also be examining at the end of this school year an alternate screening tool that may even be more useful to us in this work.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Barrasso? Ms. Bush?
I noticed on the graphs that there's not a lot of change at all from going from the low risk to the higher risks. I see it's just about the same from fall to winter screening. So is that something you're working on to see what things will be in place, try to get that improvement?
And that's one of the reasons why we're maybe looking at another tool that will provide us with a more discrete level of differentiation to be able to make that.
Thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
I was just a little concerned with the middle school scores. It looks like the students are more at risk than they were in the fall. Do you have any explanation for that?
I don't. That is an indication of the interdisciplinary teams looking at the indicators for the behavior screen and identifying, the degree to which students, the frequency with which students are exhibiting certain behaviors.
Other questions? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you for your report. General business. Item 7.1 under general business.